I'm sure we can all name some of the greatest trolls of internet history, but surprisingly, my favorite has been pretty much forgotten to time. Lay Reddit Army. This was a ragtag group of YouTube commenters who saw an opportunity when Google completely butchered the algorithm of the platform to help prop up their now forgotten failure of a Facebook competitor, Google+. They removed likes and dislikes on comments and instead pushed up messages with a lot of engagements, which as it turned out included rage bait. What ensued was the group LARPing as the most obnoxious stereotypes of Redditors, in a raid of the then easily manipulated comment sections where for several months they gamed the system to always have the top comment on every viral video. But how on earth could Google allow this to happen? Well, to figure that out, we'll have to first go back about 20 years. But before we go any further in today's video, I'd just like to give a shout out to my sponsor, Morgan & Morgan, America's largest personal injury law firm. I'm sure everyone has seen the headlines of a person being hit by a car and receiving a multi-million-dollar settlement due to the negligence on the driver's part. But what you might not think about are the teams behind the wronged that fight to get them the compensation they deserve, such as Morgan & Morgan. Sure, there are plenty of law firms out there that will advertise this service, but many don't have the teams needed to take on multi-million-dollar cases. And even to find out, you'll have to call them, leave a message, hope they call you back, and set up a consultation in the future. The great thing about Morgan & Morgan is you can submit your case through their website without talking to anyone, with you receiving a prompt response from a professional that can help you no matter how big the case if you become their client. This has led them to winning clients sums in the tens of millions, such as $12 million in Florida, 34 times the highest insurance offer, and $26 million in Philadelphia, 40 times the highest insurance offer. And the best part is their lawyers are absolutely free unless they win you money. You can start your claim now with Morgan & Morgan at www.forthepeople.com/tgfm, found in the description or by scanning the QR code on the screen from your phone's camera. So if you ever get seriously injured, you can reach out to Morgan & Morgan today. Our story begins all the way back in 2006, a year after YouTube launched. That October, Google bought the startup for a seismic $1.65 billion. This investment failed to turn a profit for nearly a decade, but what they were buying was far more valuable than any monetary amount. As they predicted, the open video sharing platform would go on to alter the world, forever changing how we interact and communicate with each other, and most importantly, allow me to never need a real job. It quickly became one of the most popular sites on the web, and by the summer was delivering over 100 million hits per day. Early on, YouTube operated with a degree of independence. The site was a lot different compared to the website most viewers are familiar with today, gradually getting features like the view counter, rating system, custom user profiles, private messages, and eventually monetization. The ability to make money off of your uploads was game-changing, allowing many to turn their hobby into a fledgling online career. The result of this truly unique ecosystem was a very loyal community that came to view this strange internet frontier as home. Google saw it as sort of an experiment, studying how users behaved and evolving the site based on their research. In May of 2006, they rolled out video responses, which put a section for video replies under the original upload to facilitate a dialogue. As users got accustomed to these features, there was always going to be some amount of backlash to the change. The layout, for example, was updated over time to limit user customization in favor of a uniform experience. In 2010, the comments section was redesigned with the intent of silencing trolls. This divided comments into 3 sections: replies from the uploader, the most uprated, and the most recent. Back then, the site actually had a functional comment-dislike button, so the most popular messages were determined by their like-to-dislike ratio. For the most part, users adapted to these changes, but that became a lot harder as YouTube underwent massive structural shifts. You see, while Google was evaluated at $200 billion at this point, they hadn't been able to pierce the world of social networking. They made their first attempt all the way back in 2004 with Orkut. It resulted from their failure to buy the platform Friendster. Orkut launched mere weeks before Facebook, which eventually overshadowed its competitor. While the site stayed afloat, finding an audience in India, they changed priorities. Of course, with Facebook on track to reach 1 billion users, they were bound to revisit the concept. In 2009, they designed a communication system for developers called Google Wave. According to Mashable, the service combined aspects of email, instant messaging, wikis, and project management into one elegant communication client. Wave barely lasted a year, likely due to its niche demographic. In 2010, the project was replaced by Google Buzz, an attempt to rival Twitter and Facebook by adding social features to their products. The problem is that the way it was integrated made it so anyone with a Google account had to be part of their social network, whether they liked it or not. If that wasn't bad enough, to simplify the process, they would link people together by searching their emails and associates. These contacts were then listed, again without ever getting consent, on their public Google profile for the entire world to see. Buzz was implemented on February 9th to intense backlash. Only a week later, on February 16th, a class action lawsuit was initiated against Google, alleging the company violated federal privacy laws. On the same day, the Electronic Privacy Information Center, or EPIC for short, filed a complaint with the FTC. This change in business practices and services terms violated user privacy expectations, diminished users' privacy, contradicted Google's own privacy policy, and may have also violated federal wiretap laws. It wasn't like this was some sort of silly mistake either. As the Electronic Frontier Foundation pointed out, Google attempted to overcome its market disadvantage by making a secondary use of your information in the process. The privacy of Google users was overlooked and ultimately compromised. On November 12th, it was announced Google had settled the suit. All Gmail users in the US received an email from the company clarifying the issue. It wasn't so much an apology as a stipulation of the agreement. There was no payout though. Google instead agreed to set up an $8.5 million fund to promote privacy education on the web. This amount was a pittance in the grand scheme of things. The FTC agreed with Epic's complaints, announcing a settlement in March of 2011. The terms stipulated Google must establish a comprehensive privacy program and undergo regular independent audits. While the company survived unscathed, from a PR perspective, Buzz was beyond saving. It was unsurprisingly abandoned as focus shifted to a new social media program called Google+. Plus was ambitious, replicating many features of contemporary platforms. It came complete with a newsfeed, status updates, group chats, and cloud-based photo albums. A core feature was circles, which allowed users to organize contacts into groups. They could track topics or interests through Sparks, which utilized their search engine. Their goal was to fix online sharing, a concept Google boldly proclaimed was broken. It quickly became a focus at the company under the codename Emerald Sea. Similar to Buzz, the underlying goal was to establish a single user profile across their various properties. You can think of Google Plus as Google 2.0. The old Google was siloed. Your identity and how you share with your family was different across each product. In the new version of Google, we know your name, we understand your circles, and we make every service better. While the social platform launched on June of 2011, it was far from a standalone rollout. Google Plus was part of a wider effort to transform the company into a social destination. This included odd features like video games, and perhaps most impressive, Google Hangouts. Nowadays, video calls are so easy to make that most people take them for granted. Back then though, having an in-browser app like this for free was groundbreaking. It was clean, professional, and allowed up to 10 people at a time. I'll talk about this more later on, but its sheer utility led Hangouts to outlive Google Plus itself. For now though, we're going to focus on the social platform. Within months of Google Plus's launch, the platform hit 25 million users. Of course, these metrics are rather misleading given it was necessary to sign up for Google Plus to use any of their services. This didn't translate to active users, and they later admitted 90% of Google Plus sessions lasted less than 5 seconds. The truth is, most people just weren't interested. While it was good enough, it didn't really add anything that would make people leave the already popular Facebook to use it instead. It didn't help that within weeks the platform was flooded with spam. The influx forced them to implement blocking, but it was still annoying to get unwanted notifications on something you never signed up for. Google Plus would have a very tumultuous existence, with the first of many controversies arising from its initial launch. You see, to mirror Facebook, Google introduced a real name policy. To help fight spam and prevent fake profiles, use the name your friends, family, or coworkers usually call you. This barred pseudonyms, nicknames, as well as many non-standard real names. The result was a massive ban wave on July 22, 2011.
Ban world, population U.
This sparked massive backlash, with numerous artists and musicians banned for simply using an alias. Caught in the crossfire were brands such as Ford and Sesame Street, who created profiles for their businesses. While many in the industry pleaded with Google to reconsider their stance, these complaints fell on deaf ears. This scandal quickly exploded into what became known as the NIM Wars. The case against the real name policy was simple. Forcing users to compromise details about their identity is dangerous. There are endless reasons to protect your personal info online. Those with jobs in fields like teaching had to worry about harassment. Others had been victimized by stalkers. The point is, it wasn't just trolls that wanted to remain private, and a substantial portion of the left spoke out to point out how anonymity was used by LGBTQ people to avoid being outed. To make matters worse, losing your Google account meant losing access to all of their products, including Gmail. Their moderation was so lackluster, they even banned several celebrities under the impression that they were impersonators. This was a near unanimous position, yet Google insisted on its stance against anonymity. Their only concession was including nickname privileges if the user had physical proof. For the most part, they ignored the backlash, finally hitting 90 million users by the end of 2011. Now, by February of 2012, the platform was already considered a ghost town. The massive boost was once again just the result of artificial growth. They started forcing all new YouTube accounts to sign up for Google+, doubling the total number of users in 3 months. However, it wouldn't infect the online video hosting site itself for another year. Google's priority shifted from viewing Plus as a destination to describing the project as a social layer. By June of 2013, Google Plus had taken over their third-party sign-in process, and it was being used for comment sections on sites like Blogger. With that said, the backlash to these decisions paled in comparison to their next rollout 2 months later, which is when Google Plus finally went too far by trying to fully take over YouTube. The scheme was simple. If Gmail's 200 million users could bolster Google+, why not YouTube's millions of commenters? The thing is, YouTube had always been its own ecosystem, built off a much different foundation than something like Facebook. So much so that many viewers rejected Google+ long before it was an active threat to their platform of choice.
As long as you're not joining Google+, you're enjoying the benefits of not Google+. It's that easy.
Regardless of the mockery, in September of 2013, Google announced YouTube's new comments section would now require a Google+ account. All of their unpopular and criticized policies were going to be thrust upon YouTube. The intentions behind this decision were unsurprisingly scrutinized. While the move could help fight against trolls, to most it was nothing more than a cynical attempt to get more personal data. And to reiterate a point from earlier, people had grown attached to the way YouTube was, so a drastic change like this was going to be an uphill battle. However, when the update came out, it ended up being a lot worse than anyone imagined. It wasn't really just the comment section either. The entire platform had been integrated. Every new channel now came with a Google Plus page that could not be deleted. It automatically posted an update every time you uploaded or left a comment. I remember this because it was a great way to find someone's unlisted videos, old avatars, and stuff like that. The point is, YouTube didn't know how YouTube worked with Google+, and navigating the various gimmicks and settings proved quite cumbersome. Many YouTubers expressed their frustrations publicly. One such creator was Emma Blackery, who wrote a viral song airing her grievances out with the service. This video received 4 million views, which was a lot, especially back then. Unfortunately, their pleas were once again unheard, as Google instead paraded their new 500 million Google Plus user metric.
Over the last 2,500 days I've been on this site, I have checked and read every single comment I've ever gotten. I can't say that anymore, because with this new system, I have no idea where the they're going. So many of them are just going to Google+, others aren't being notified anywhere, and the Google+ system, you click this little bell in the corner, and it's like, oh, here are all your notifications. What the is this? I can't read this.
What needs to be realized is that the new comment system did away with the previous tiering structure, now only showing the top comments. But many wondered what the hell that actually meant. Before, trolls would just get dislike bombed to get them buried from people seeing them any further. Google Plus removed this function as it was seen as too negative and hurt people's feelings. This is all without mentioning the biggest issue, which is that oversights in the new system rendered the comments nearly unusable. You see, the Google Plus update also removed the 500 character limit on comments. It also eased restrictions on sharing external links. The result was a huge wave of bots sharing adult material, while trolls planted massive unclosable replies.
Jesus Christ, Barack Obama, and Adolf Hitler, they're posting ASCII arts of genitalia. I'm begging you, find a way to fix this, please. It's killing me.
This would end up sparking an entire movement, defined by a little stick figure named Bob. While the precise origin of Bob is unclear, the character first began appearing on YouTube in late 2008. This copypasta flooded the site, introducing his goal of taking over YouTube. His popularity incited a site-wide civil war, with many trying to fight against the sheer influx of spam. Needless to say, the new comments led many to revere Bob and his mission. Bob is building an army. This tank and Bob are against Google+. Copy and paste this all over YouTube if you are with us. By November, the character saw its largest resurgence as a symbol against the authoritarian rule of Google+. They armed him with rifles, tanks, and helicopters, and pasted him all over the platform. While it may not have had any real effect, it was a very memorable moment in the era, and a clear indication of just how many people hated the changes. Perhaps its biggest consequence is that it demonstrated how broken the new system was. All people had to do was copy and paste it, have a bunch of people reply, and it would show up at the top of every comment section. And with this, it wasn't long until Bob was overshadowed by an entire ecosystem of trolls, who called themselves Lay Reddit Army. This is one of my favorite events of internet history, which harmlessly pissed off millions upon millions of people. It seems nowadays everyone has forgotten about this trolling op, which is why I'm so excited to finally have a chance to talk about it on this channel a decade later. To give you a clear idea of what Lay Reddit Army is, we're going to have to explain a lot of context. Because while many people simply took these trolls at face value, there was much more there than met the eye. The first thing worth clarifying is that this movement seemingly didn't even come from Reddit. This is another one of those instances where there isn't clear documentation on its origin, but I think I've been able to narrow it down to a few central elements. To start, back in the day, Reddit was already known for its so-called hug of death. When a link hit the front page, the site often got so much traffic it went down. It was also common for Redditors to leave comments on viral uploads when they hit the top of our videos. This was in the early stages of people sincerely identifying as Redditors and telling in-jokes like the narwhal bacons at midnight in the comment section of videos, so they can be identified by fellow Redditors. But these neckbeards rarely, if ever, use the phrase Lay Reddit Army. In actuality, the slogan can be traced back to the meme-sharing site 9gag, which launched in 2008. This may be hard to believe, but at the time, many saw memes as serious business. There were less of them, and the ones that did exist typically lasted years. This was before ironic memes were a thing, so when an exploitable got too popular or overused, it was considered dead. A great example of this is Operation Stop Their Scheme, 4chan's attack on Know Your Meme in 2010. Anons went so far as to DDoS the site in retaliation for commercializing memes. It was a similar case when they took aim at 9gag a year later. 9gag had grown to be a sizable community, particularly due to the success of rage comics. What infuriated 4chan the most was the appropriation of their language. 9gag users called themselves Legion, and even started raiding other sites with the phrase, Lay 9gag Army has arrived. Using the term lay mockingly is a reference to a 22-year-old Flash animation called The End of the World.
Then France is like, shit guys, we got the missiles, they are coming, fire our shit. but I'm tired.
The entire internet found 9gag obnoxious, and in late 2011, 4chan raided the site and launched a DDoS attack. The operation had help from 3 other militias, Tumblr, Reddit, and FunnyJunk. I'm not going to explain the full story here because it isn't pertinent to the video, but the main takeaway is that after this, 9gag became the de facto scapegoat for 4chan's escapades. When they needed to deflect blame, they would have 9gag take credit by declaring Le 9gag army had arrived. I hope you can now see where I'm going with all this. The first Le Reddit army comments started appearing in 2012, which had people posing as Redditors making cringe comments under YouTube videos, much to the confusion of actual Redditors. What the f is with those Reddit army comments on this video? Those better be people trolling not from Reddit. There were suspicions it was the work of a third party, but most Redditors took the comments at face value and complained to the community. A good case study for these accounts is Lay4Reddit2Soldier, created in May of 2013. It'll help give an idea of some of the reoccurring memes. This is Lay Reddit Army live announcement. Man up your rage faces, your lays, and your derps, for we are under attack under 9gag and 4chan. We, the RF7U12 Army, along with the rest of Reddit behind our backs, are going to rebel against our oppressors. Join us by upvoting this post. You will help us fight for our cause. 1 upvote equals 1 tip of your fedora. End of Lay Reddit Army public service announcement. Lay Reddit Army was effectively an attempt to sour public opinion by amplifying the site's fedora-wearing neckbeard atheist stereotype. Unfortunately for Redditors, it worked extremely well, especially once YouTube's new comment system was in place. Something I've neglected to mention thus far is how exactly the new Google Plus YouTube algorithm actually worked to pick top comments. As mentioned before, the most popular used to be determined by their like-to-dislike ratio. After Google Plus, it was just about engagement and nothing else. That meant if a comment was controversial and got a lot of replies, it would shoot right up to the top. Lay Reddit Army capitalized on this, becoming near inescapable throughout 2014. They excelled at engagement baits, perfectly mimicking annoying Redditors enough to get angry replies. Take for example Theodore Tribley, a stage 4 ultra-atheist with an elite Redditor IQ of 104. Tipping should be banned? We might as well also ban class, gentlemen, and Redditors, Oxford comma. As an esteemed Redditor, I am in an elite community of class. I tip my fedora many times a day, whether it be to anime miladies online or in person. I never disrespect a proper lady. The day America bans tipping will be the day that my Mountain Dew supply runs dry. Never. Or how about the user Narwhal Bacon? People laugh at the dog for believing in an imaginary door, yet it is perfectly fine for people to believe in an imaginary god. At its height, these accounts took over the comment section of pretty much every video. Millions of people were seeing them, especially once trolls learned to boost each other's replies. A is for atheist. That's all you need to know to join us at Reddit. B is for bacon, XD, hashtag just Reddit things. C is for cannabis. D is for die stupid 9gaggers. E is for euphoric, not because of some sky fairy. F is for friendzone, tips fedora with shame. G is for God, who doesn't exist, so this is useless. G is also for 9gag, and gay? Coincidence? I think not. As a moderator of our conspiracy, I have to deal with stuff like this all day. H is for Hitler, whom Christians literally are. While most stuck to being Redditors, it wasn't long until parodies of other online archetypes emerged to exploit Google Plus's comment sections. The most prolific was Berta Lovejoy, a man-hating feminist. You have to remember that this was at the height of Gamergate as well as the healthy at every size movement. Berta's MO was to chastise the uploader over some perceived moral failing. Her complaints ranged from sexist animal abuse to propaganda to make the female race look unintelligent. As a feminist, it makes my blood boil seeing the TV producers keep blunders like these on the shows when a female is the one making the mistake. Males do the exact same thing, but much more frequently. However, sexist producers cut out that footage as they want to give females a bad reputation. Berta Lovejoy, feminist, promoter of equality, love, and peace. Seems like sexist males deleted my comment. Here it is again, you sexist males. As a feminist, this video disgusts me. Just because she's a female, you're going to make her pay for everything? What a backwards, sexist thing to do. Shame on Redditors for upvoting this sexist garbage. This trolling was so successful, she quickly became Lay Reddit Army's most replied to account. In June of 2014, our Reddit Army was created. The subreddit, funnily enough, became their base of operations, with many prominent trolls turning out to be actual Redditors. Up until this point, the movement was completely decentralized. They now had a place to share their victories, even giving an award called the Golden Fedora at the end of the year. Berta won twice, earning the Funniest Reaction Award by arguing with the rapper Lil Dicky, who now has a show on FX. Didn't I tell you to stop uploading these sexist songs last time? I thought my message would have got into your thick male skull by now. This is even worse than the last people. Women are literally only used as objects for male pleasure in this one. Heck, you even included a clip of a woman being raped at 2:56, whilst rapping about what a good thing it is. Despicable. I have shown this video to the legion of feminists. Expect serious consequences. It was first noticed by fans who piled onto her. Straight up embarrassing yourself. Bet you're one of those feminists that go out of their way to find things to cry about. Who the hell do you think you are? Sure, he's going to stop it because you said so. This led to a back and forth where the actual rapper wrote several paragraphs arguing about the age of consent. It went on for 20 minutes until he finally caught on that she was a troll. Bro, Berta got you in her fake feminism trap. She is a well-known troll from Reddit. You're baiting the troll. Google her and then laugh about how deep she got you. Unfortunately, by creating a public subreddit to share escapades such as these, the trolls inadvertently revealed their hand. It became very easy to show others what was going on, mitigating their impact. A browser extension was then created to block their channels from comment sections entirely called Hide Fedora. Their writing was on the wall. They had become too high profile and were starting to feel the heat. This is a comment from You Fried Cook, the person behind Berta Lovejoy. When Berta started taking off, it took less than a month for the person in the original picture to find out about it. She reported me to Google and told me to take it down. I did, she accepted my apology, and wrote a blog post about it. He then provides an excerpt from the aforementioned blog post. Lo and behold, my face was indeed staring back at me. I put a comment on the channel to the effect that the owner was using my name without permission, and she, yes, she does say she's female, although really it could have been anyone, male, female, whatever, responded saying that she does occasionally read my blog, apologized for using the image without permission, and had been using it for satire. It's crazy how Google Plus's real name policy would end up causing such high-profile cases of identity theft, since it was almost required to stay somewhat anonymous. Later in the exchange, the troll admits to deleting several days' worth of comments. Some SJWs decided to pick apart and reply to my comments, telling me what a bad person I am, rather than privately messaging me. I didn't want to bother, so deleted the posts. While this was the end of the most famous contributor, the rest of the battalion continued on. With that said, this whole ordeal only proved just how short-sighted Google's so-called integrations actually were. After 2 years of universal rejection, the message was clear. Google Plus sucked, and it couldn't be forced upon the public. In April of 2014, Vic Gundotra, the father of Google Plus, left the company. To many, it was a sign that the corporation was changing its approach. Without his leadership, its future seemed uncertain as rumors circulated on its fate. A representative denied these claims, stating it had no effect on their strategy. That didn't stop sites like TechCrunch from calling it The Walking Dead. That July, Google finally dropped its real name policy. It came shortly after a high-profile incident in which a trans woman was outed by one of their products because they were forced to change their dead name per their policy. While a popular decision, the fact they took so long meant they had lost any goodwill the move would have earned. Finally, in July of 2015, Google started to reverse course, pulling Google Plus from YouTube. They slowly rolled back all of the products they forcibly integrated. Still, the social network wasn't dead, getting a complete revamp later that year. This direction split Google Plus into two, one app for photos and one app for news. The former was folded into Google Photos just 4 months later. The social media aspect survived a few more years, slowly collecting dust. Then in 2018, it made headlines for all the wrong reasons. That October, it was revealed a security bug allowed developers to access user data since 2015. The exploit was discovered in March, but they chose not to inform users. It was later estimated nearly 500,000 people had their personal info, including names, emails, jobs, and locations, compromised. This showed that even sitting on the data could be a risk, so that same day, the tech conglomerate announced Google Plus would be shutting down for good. It came a lot sooner than expected, sunsetting the service for good on April 2nd, 2019. The end was bittersweet. For all its faults and turmoils, it was hard not to feel something after spending 8 years together. That was especially true of younger users, many of whom grew up actually using Google Plus and its services. I watched as posts from weeks, months, years ago began showing up on my feed, unmoving. Finally, I had clicked on the big G+ post, and just like that, I couldn't access anything. I'd describe it as peaceful, watching everything pass by before moving on by yourself. To this day, there are still some who reminisce over its communities. Though for the most part, people celebrated its death. Google Plus was a failed experiment. It wasn't just a bad product, but one that repeatedly jeopardized the privacy and safety of its users. That was while being near universally rejected every step of the way. Now, you might think this is the end of the story, but as I stated before, one feature wound up outliving the entire platform. As mentioned earlier, Google Hangouts was an immediate success, finding both professional and personal use. By 2014, it was so popular that they made it usable without Google+. A key feature of Hangouts was the ability to broadcast your meeting. It was eventually integrated into YouTube, allowing users to stream their group calls directly. This feature completely changed the landscape. The barrier of entry was so low, anyone could now host their own live show. The utility of this was seen a few months later in the light of the Gamergate movement. I don't know how I find a way to bring up Gamergate in pretty much every single video recently, but to put it briefly, this was a harassment campaign against women in gaming, or an online movement meant to address ethics in video game journalism, depending on who you ask. A major catalyst for this blowing up were attempts to limit open discussion of the controversy. There were very few public figures at the time in support of #Gamergate. This led a number of supporters to start their own YouTube channels, spawning the first wave of anti-SJW content. The roster included names like Andy Worski, Mr. Medicare, and Sargon of Akkad. In addition to making videos, they all spoke to each other on Google Hangouts, which became a major part of their campaign. This is where they would exchange thoughts, talking points, and sometimes debate each other on air. While Gamergate faded in relevance, Hangouts stuck around, and one small streamer named Ethan Ralph decided to pursue a full-time career. In 2015, he started a new podcast called The Kill Stream. It was an internet drama debate show, starring a revolving cast of right-wing figures. However, this endeavor was cut short in 2016 after Ralph was arrested for drunkenly assaulting a police officer. He was sentenced to prison a year later, serving 6 months, getting released in early 2018. In his absence, a rival show had begun called The Morning Kumite. Kumite is when the scene started to reach its natural conclusion in the form of internet blood sports. The premise of internet blood sports was simple. As they debated controversial subjects, the arguments often got personal. Viewers loved it, and so over time this came to the forefront. It became the point to try and embarrass each other live. The sheer variety of guests was a big draw, veering from Destiny to Richard Spencer. It grew into a highly profitable sector of the community. However, this attention came with infamy. That September, Ethan Ralph decided to host a show for charity called The Heel Stream. Many recognizable faces made appearances, including comedian Sam Hyde.
Oh, hey, that's
Why
Sam.
is Sam Hyde here?
Hey,
Sam Hyde, man, yeah.
What?
Thank you for coming
Holy
on.
shit.
What?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Everybody, I'm sorry I sent Sam Hyde the link here and
Is
asked him
this
to come
real
on.
life?
In total, the 8-hour marathon raised $26,000 for cancer research at St. Jude Children's Hospital. These donations were procured through super chats, usually attached to inflammatory messages. Some denied the Holocaust, while others celebrated a shooting from several days prior. This didn't go unnoticed by journalists who observed how popular Google Hangouts had become in alt-right circles. 2 months later, an article about the incident was published in the Wall Street Journal. Their coverage emphasized the bigoted donations while putting pressure on YouTube to act. As a result, St. Jude refused their donations and refunded his viewers. Then the next day, Ralph's entire account was banned. The community retaliated by getting Wall Street Journal kills kids trending, but it didn't really go anywhere. Instead, they simply moved off platform to alternative sites like Stream.me. This was a rough time for YouTube. The platform had suffered its adpocalypse. 2019 saw a crackdown on hateful content, amid murmurs of the Hangout feature being retired. Rumors claimed the app was being split into Hangout chats and Hangout meets. However, this didn't manifest until 3 years later on November 1st, 2022. That day, it was announced Hangouts were finally sunset for good. The beloved video call program was indeed replaced by Google Chats, a business-centric messaging app. While they may not have been proud of its legacy, it's hard to argue the Bloodsports era wasn't a peak public awareness of their product. Even if the shows themselves were banned, it left an impact on streamers like Destiny pivoting into full-time political debate. Bloodsports also led to the implosion of several people's careers, but that's a long story for another day. And with that, the last official remnants of Google Plus were gone, putting an end to that era of the company for good. In conclusion, just as quickly as Google Plus started, Lay Reddit Army fizzled out. YouTube's algorithm changed again, and the trolls' usual methods no longer worked. Ironically, there would be little to no archives of any of this if not for the dead social media site. Thanks to Google+, a user was able to scrape the most popular accounts and preserve their trolling for the history books. While the troops packed up a decade ago, with the greater online community forgetting their noble fights, I for one will never forget the ample laughs I received watching them mess with millions of unscrupulous users, and in the process one-upping a multi-billion-dollar company.